pressure makes me want to scream.
Wow, that almost seemed real.
Come on, local hero, I think. I'll be glad.
The sounds you hear are a symphony of 80s nostalgia, dystopian cyberpunk, and savage swords drawn against super sorcery and super science. This is the start of Rogue Transmissions for DUNGEONPUNK.
Barbarians!
Every day, countless radio signals float unseen through our airwaves. Many of these originate from the airline industry, the military, police, fire, and rescue. But then there are other signals. Their source is unknown, they're barely detectable, and their message is dangerous. We give you Rogue Transmissions.
Players to stadium now. Players to stadium now. Players to stadium now.
Byzantium Slab, Life Without a Soul, Part 1. Interior, dungeon, night. A young woman hangs by her arms and legs from a dank stone wall. She's naked, save for some shredded, once white rags. She's attached to an apparatus with the look of both medieval sorcery and advanced tech. Her name is Chan.
The first thing I hear, the first thing I can remember, is the sound of my soul fleeing my body. It shushed like the breath of wind shuddering through a patch of thistles. They harvested it. My soul. Days, maybe weeks ago. Why do they keep me here? Useless. Like the discarded husk of a long-departed cicada.
The dungeon is home to many unfortunate folk like Chan, guarded by sentries who resemble Halloween skeletons wearing futuristic Viking armor or mech suits. A sentry inserts a tube into Chan's body to extract blood, pulls it out, takes a sip of the blood from the tube, puts it back in.
Blood is the last to go. There's solace in knowing that soon I shall return to the great halls of my kin. Though I remember nothing of my kin, or even myself. I know only that I am, and that I'm made to suffer.
Time passes as Chan's blood is slowly harvested. Others die after being fully harvested. Sentries remove the dead only after they've started to rot. At some point, a little boy, about 10 years old, walks up to Chan, staring at her night and day. He's wearing a grotesque mask and a potato sack tunic cinched at the waist with a rope, barefoot. Wild, tangled wisps of hair jut out from behind the mask. Occasionally the child will vomit from under the mask. The character is named Drill. Chan doesn't know it yet, but Drill is what's left of her soul, and only she can see him. When Chan rouses from a long lapse in consciousness, Drill shows her a grimoire he's obtained. He opens it, and a holographic interface for the AI displays above the pages, which are not actually pages. The AI is represented as a holographic god, resembling a Baphomet.
Tremble before Tio, god of the grimoire.
TIO, by the way, is an acronym for Teutonic Interface Operating System, but none of the characters we've met know that yet. Drill tuts his fingers ritualistically to communicate with the grimoire's user interface.
The Tio recognizes his servant.
Then the TO says some shit in a dead, ancient language.
Petra, Astrolabin, Hajata, Tansian, Monotov, Menasian, Zanzibar,
Suma Mandala Dati Sakunda, Dimsa di Azuda, Tanda Tetra, Suma Tanda Tek.
The apparatus and chains disengage, and Chan drops to the slimy floor like so much dead weight. Another electronic voice, not the TO, says, "Disengage module, Chan 13 TAC 8.
So this is my name? Chan 13 TAC 8?
Note to the art department. Please do not hesitate to correct overly cheesy name introductions. Chan struggles to pull out the blood extraction tube. Drill just stands and watches, not offering to help. Chan finally manages to slowly, shakily get on her feet. Drill tuts his fingers to speak to Tio's holographic interface. Tio pulls up a schematic of the castle. Drill gestures as if to say, "Let's go."
Lead on, friends.
The princess is held captive at Showbiz Pizza Place, and only the brave knight can save her.
3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, welcome back to our True Crime Podcast. I'm Jen.
And I'm Cam.
Cam, today we're going to take a quick dive into the summer of 1984. But we're not talking about the Olympics or Ghostbusters. We're going to Sayreville, New Jersey.
Ooh, the 80s. I can smell the hairspray and the Marlboro Reds from here.
No joke. There was a specific vibe to the 80s. But for a group of teenagers in Sayreville, the vibe was much darker. Today we're going to talk about the case of Ricky Kasso, the boy the media branded the Acid King. And I'm not meaning acid washed in him.
Nope, you aren't. Now, this is a case that essentially birthed the satanic panic in the States, if you know what that is. It's got everything. Heavy metal, dungeons in the woods, PCP, and a complete failure of the mental health system.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Sayreville is a blue-collar town, and if you were a cool kid, you played football. But if you did drugs, you were a stoner, and the stoners hung out at a place called the Pavilion.
Now, you know, that sounds kind of fancy, but it wasn't. It was basically just a concrete picnic shelter where kids went to do drugs and listen to, that's right, Black Sabbath.
Exactly. And this Pavilion was their sanctuary. But Ricky Kasso was the outlier, even among the outliers. I mean, he was 17, tall, gaunt, and usually wearing an AC/DC or Ozzy Osbourne shirt. I mean, honestly, he kind of reminds me of the Temu version of Rex Smith.
So, he kind of does. And he wasn't just experimenting with drugs. The reports say that he had taken LSD over 500 times. And at that young age, holy moly.
That's not good.
I think I read that he started in 7th grade. Jen, I can't even imagine what that does to the developing brain. I mean, come on. You know, in the documentary, The Acid King, a guy who knew him said he was visibly disturbed. I would think so. You looked at the guy and you knew something was up.
Yeah, I mean, all this drug use created a total break from reality. Ricky started spending his nights in the woods, specifically in a patch they called the Bird Sanctuary. He treated it like a literal dungeon or a temple. I mean, he was estranged from his family, and when he wasn't couch surfing, he'd sleep in abandoned cars or in a sleeping bag under the stars, claiming that he was communicating with the Crow.
The Crow. Wow. And, you know, this is where the satanic part starts to bleed in. But was he actually a Satanist, or was he just a kid who liked the aesthetic? You know, he liked the look. Look at me. Be scared of me.
Well, you could say it was a stoner Satanism type thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't belong to a church. He just liked the power he felt it gave him. I mean, he drew pentagrams in the dirt, and he would tell younger kids that he was a high priest. I mean, he wanted to be feared because in his real life, he had zero control. So then enter Gary Lauwers. Gary was 17, and honestly, he was just trying to fit in. He wasn't a tough guy like Ricky. I mean, he did get in trouble from time to time, like he would break into homes for drug money, but he was basically harmless. I mean, one of the kids who knew him, who's now a man, said that he was a decent guy to get stoned with.
Oh, yeah. And let me tell you, this is the tragedy of the tag along, the follower, if you will. Gary just wanted to be part of the group. One of his friends said that they thought Gary was the saddest kid he'd ever met. He just seemed lost.
That's heartbreaking. So early in 1984, Gary made a massive mistake. He stole 10 bags of PCP, and that's angel dust, right? That's what we talked about.
Yeah, it is, for sure.
He stole 10 bags of PCP, or angel dust. They actually called it dust, out of Ricky's jacket while Ricky was passed out.
Oh, Gary, buddy, come on now. You don't... The one thing you don't want to do is steal from a guy who thinks he actually talks to demons.
Right?
Not a good move.
And of course, Ricky was humiliated, and he beat Gary up in public at the pavilion. He made Gary give him his sneakers, too. But even after Gary paid him back most of the money, Ricky wouldn't let him go. He was obsessed with Gary betraying him. I mean, he told people, quote, "The crow told me Gary has to die."
And I mean, honestly, did people just listen? Nobody called the cops? I mean, that is a clear case of the bystander effect of the 80s drug scene. Everyone was so high, or were they scared of being a narc that they just let Ricky go? They let him spiral.
They were scared. They didn't want to be a narc. Nobody wants to be a narc, right? So, okay, now it's June 16th, 1984. It's a humid night. Ricky, Gary, and two other boys, James Toriano and Albert Quinones.
Quinones.
Yeah. Quinones.
Like with a
Quinones.
Y.
Yeah, Quinones. And Albert Quinones go to the woods to get high. I mean, they're all on a cocktail of LSD and PCP.
I mean, I don't even know what to say. That is a recipe for a psychotic break, if I've ever heard
ding,
one.
Ding, 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 ding. Exactly. So they're sitting around a small fire, and suddenly Ricky lunges, and he starts biting Gary's neck, and then he pulls out a knife. And for the next 3 hours, it's just a living nightmare.
What? 3 hours? How can that even happen?
Well, I mean, there's the drugs, and because they were in that, natural dungeon, it was in the middle of the woods that they were so thick and no one could hear the screams from Gary or any of the others. I mean, Ricky stabbed Gary over 30 times. And this is the part that haunted the headlines. This is, of course, they always pick up on the salacious things. Reportedly, Ricky commanded Gary to say, commanded Gary to, quote, "say you love Satan."
The one good thing, I guess, maybe, I don't know. He didn't give in. Gary kept saying, "I love my mother." And Gary's response is what makes it so heartbreaking.
Just heartbreaking.
Oh, Gary.
Eventually, Gary died. Ricky and James then allegedly gouged out his eyes, though reports vary on whether that was a real ritualistic thing or just did it in pure frenzy. And then they covered him with leaves. And then Ricky walked out of those woods believing that he finally achieved power.
But you know what? He didn't run away. He stayed in Sayreville. He didn't just stay. He gave, that's right, tours.
Can you believe that?
For the next 2 weeks, Gary's body sat in the woods, and Ricky would lead other teenagers to the spot to show off his sacrifice. I cannot even
It's unbelievable,
wrap my head
right?
around this. This is like,
I know.
Do you want to see a dead body? Stand by me. I mean, how do you see a dead body and then go home to eat dinner without saying a word? It's just a regular day.
Because they were afraid. It was simply fear. I mean, Ricky told them that if they talked, they'd be next. It wasn't until an anonymous tip that hit the police department on July 1st that the police finally went into the woods and found what was left of Gary. And when they eventually arrested Ricky, he was wearing an AC/DC shirt, right? And the police found his shrine in his room, including notebooks filled with lyrics and drawings. And, the media, they saw AC/DC and, pentagrams, and they stopped looking for any other motive.
Now, here we need to talk about Ricky's parents, though, right? I mean, because they tried, didn't they? I mean, they did.
Oh, they did. They really did try. And this is the part of the 80s news. Oh, and this is the part the 80s news skipped. I mean, Ricky's father tried to have him committed to a psychiatric hospital two times. And one of those times, Ricky was even taken to a facility, but they released him because there weren't enough beds, or he didn't meet the criteria for immediate danger.
Unreal. So basically, you're saying the system handed a ticking time bomb back to the parents and said, hey, good luck.
Yeah, basically. And then 2 days after Ricky was arrested, he took his own life in his jail cell. He used his own T-shirt. Ricky was just 17 years old, and he died before he could ever explain what was happening in his head.
This case changed everything for kids in the 80s.
Oh, it did. It really did. I mean, after this, there was Geraldo Rivera and Oprah. They started doing specials on satanic undergrounds. And Lord knows, if you played Dungeons and Dragons or liked Metallica, you were a suspect. You were a Satanist.
I mean, what a way to play on parents' emotions, right? That your child, is this your child?
Oh, yeah.
They took a case about untreated mental illness and extreme drug abuse and turned it into a war on music and hobbies.
I mean, extreme drug use, right? I mean, 500 hits before he was 17, hits of acid.
Your brain's fried.
And Gary Lauwers, poor Gary Lauwers, he was a victim of a violent drug-fueled attack. Ricky Casso was a victim of failed mental health system, but the media made it all about the devil.
This is a heavy one, Jen. Whew, poor Gary. He deserves so much better than what happened to him that summer in the woods.
He did.
And on that note, remember, lock your doors.
Keep passing by those open windows. I forgot what it was. Keep passing by those open windows.
I thought you burped. And bye-bye.
Today from a dark and sinister cavern deep underground. Dubbed by police as the Night Stalker, he told terrifying tales of deadly bats, poisonous spiders, and robots
trying to kill him with laser guns.
Laser guns.
Byzantium Slab, Life Without a Soul, Part 2. Interior, Castle, Night. Chan and Drill followed the Tio's map through the castle. Behold how stealthily Chan and her mysterious little companion Drill sneak past the skeletal sentries. The Tio of the Grimoire is unaware of the need to be sneaky and almost gives away their position by providing status updates or by emitting meaningless beeps and blips.
I cannot help but ponder how these legs can bend without blood, how this heart can pump without a soul. I am as a dead thing without purpose. Still, escape seems like purpose enough.
Cut to interior throne room. A dark figure sits at the center of a vast throne room. When we get a closer look at him, we see he is wearing the elaborate armor of a warlord, satanic, Teutonic, and resembling something Jack Kirby might draw on Halloween night while tripping balls on bad dope. It is difficult to tell whether his head is a skull, a masked helm, or part of an elaborate exoskeleton. Bats and the Tio projections of open grimoires swirl about him in a cloud. Let's call him the Witch King for now. A frightened sentry whispers to the Witch King about Chan's escape. When the Witch King speaks, his words are white text in a black dialogue balloon.
So, the bitch has got away.
Deliver her back to me. Cut to interior, castle. We see a splash page or montage of all sentries throughout all parts of the castle on high alert, searching for Chan. They're mostly armed with these shadow swords, like lightsabers except made of darkness and shadow instead of light. Cut to interior, lab/torture chamber. Chan and Drill sneak into this room that looks a lot like a DUNGEONPUNK version of the laboratory in the 1931 version of Frankenstein. Chan complains that this is a dead end. Maybe she argues a bit with the TO. Drill, with help from the TO's map, wordlessly insists on venturing in. Then they discover a dead hero. Crows and maggots are eating on the corpse. It's the manliest man you can imagine. If this world had a Captain America, it would be him. This hero is a badass mix of Cap, Thor, He-Man, and Chuck Norris's beard with Will Riker's chest hair to boot. His tattered cape is pooled beneath him in such a way that you cannot discern what is cape and what is blood puddle. He's wearing a good guy version of the Witch King armor. The hero's masked helm sits next to him on the floor. It's dented and cracked. He's clutching an old, battered, tech-infused, and rune-crusted warhammer. The hammer's handle is as long as Chan is tall. I don't know this hero's name, but we'll figure it out if it ever becomes important later.
I wonder what happened to his soul. It's no mystery where his blood ended up.
Cut to close-up. Drill's moist, large anime eyes look out at Chan through the eye holes of his mask. Cut to interior castle. Sentries are at the door. A fuck ton of sentries. They say something or make a noise or do something that alerts Chan and Drill to their presence. Cut to interior lab. Drill and the TO communicate to Chan that she needs to steal/wear the hero's armor and use his weapon. Chan awkwardly dons the armor. It's way too big for her. The hero's cape is so drenched and dripping with blood that it appears as if she's wearing a blood slick on her back. She struggles to pull the hammer from the hero's hands. It's not Mjolnir. She doesn't have to be worthy to lift it. It's just really fucking heavy. And the dead hero's grip is tight. She finally pulls it free, but she rips the hero's hands off with it.
A philosopher once told me that it's arrogant to think as the church does and to assume we are all born with a soul.
Cut to interior, lab, door. A cubic fuck-ton of sentries explodes through the shattered door.
Perhaps most of our lives are spent without a soul. Maybe it's all a journey to find or fabricate a soul before death, when we'll need one most.
Cut to money shot. Chan stands barefoot and bloody to the knees at the center of a mob of pissed-off sentries wearing the ill-fitting armor and wielding the big hammer. The mask or face guard attached to the helm resembles the ceremonial mask worn by the villain in the film Plague of the Zombies. A halo of glowing runes spins around the head of the hammer like the rings of Saturn, or electrons around an atom. The hero's severed hands still grip the handle, gore dangling from them. Drill cowers behind the newly empowered Chan.
Still, life and death of little meaning for an empty husk.
A battle ensues. It's epic and spans several panels. Chan fucks them up, but she's badly outnumbered. Runes fly like sparks or the holographic projections from one of the grimoires whenever the hammer strikes its target.
The hammer does most of the work. It is the true warrior, and I am its instrument, here to do its bidding.
The sentries start to get the upper hand. Chan's armor takes some damage. Drill fucks about with the TO until a hatch opens beneath them. Chan drill and the grimoire with its hologram projection fall through it.
He is so reliable. His solid die-cast chassis, if we machines break down, and direct drive video head you humans get cross, are engineered to give you Panasonic video. Perfect pictures for years and years.
Welcome, my dear travelers, to the Morbid Forest.
You, my eight-legged friend, are a crafty cheat. Excuse me? I am no night hag. The nerve. Oh, hi there, travelers. Oh, don't mind us. Just playing a little role-playing game. You look like a band of merry travelers that would enjoy such a game. Come on, play around with us and take a roll of the dice.
Willa parked her car in front of the toy box with a sigh. She really needed this after the week she endured. Z and Jax already stood at the entrance of their joint solace. Willa exited her car, the crunching of her Doc Martens swiveling the heads of her game mates in her direction.
Our fair wench has finally graced us with her blasphemous presences.
Knock it off, Z. I'm not in the mood. Besides, I haven't played a wench since our 2018 campaign.
Yet, you are still...
Have you talked to Zach?
Jax, ever the peacekeeper, injects himself between his oldest friends. His redirection fooling no one, but ceasing the argument nonetheless. Willa pulled her phone from her back pocket, scrolling through her messages to see if there was a missed one from Zach. There were none. With a roll of her eyes, she brought her attention back to her friends.
Not a peep, but you know how he is. When is he ever on time?
This shit is really starting to get old. If he wasn't such a good DM, I would have voted him out years ago.
You say that every time, even when he's only like a minute late, and we both know you wouldn't vote him out.
As the founding member of this ragtag shit show, I wish to vote him out forth hence.
Oh, I didn't know we were in a dictatorship. Come on, I'm freezing my bits off. Let's wait inside.
The band of merry mates snickered and heckled as they stepped inside their haven. The toy box had seen better days. Once, it may have been considered a jewel to many, was now nothing more than a rhinestone with chipped edges. Warhammer sentinels stood guard at the gates. Glass tombs displayed lightly dusted figurines from Star Wars to Goku, and rows upon rows of comic texts lay scattered around the room, some in plastic, others not. Blue walls were faded gray. The carpet smelled of old Mountain Dew, and lighting was dismal. But was home to this band of four. The toy box was owned by a round man named Hank, an elderly purveyor who turned hobby into career. He was kind, although a tad odd, but that seemed to make him fit more. The players had used the toy box for years now, Hank keeping the lights on for them well past the open sign being switched off. Tonight, he greeted them with a polite nod as he counted his till.
So, Zach's late again, I see.
The group groaned in unison at the owner's astute observation.
Any new DC editions in, Hank?
Oh, still nothing. I'm pretty sure those folks have writer's block or artist block or whatever you want to call it. Either way, not much has come in for you.
Jack smiled at the older man as his thumbs numbly flipped through comics he had already read twice over. Willa and Z bickered near the tabletop setup, but Jax tuned them out. They were always on the precipice of war. However, both were trigger-shy. Their jabs and jeers were comforting, lulling Jax's worrying mind. The clock's hands waved on, displaying minute after minute of the now late hour. The young gamers grew restless.
I can't take it anymore. He's not coming. Zach has finally bailed on us. Should have let me vote him out.
Jax held a finger up to Z, attempting to silence their friend. They weren't in the mood for his candid bullshit. The phone rang, and rang some more, ending with Zach's cheery voicemail. Jax pocketed his phone with frustration.
Well, I guess we should call it a night, guys. I'm still only getting his voicemail.
Willa rolled her eyes, her Doc Martens slamming into the floor as she leapt off one of the tabletops.
This is fucking bullshit.
For once, I agree with the wench.
Willa glared at Z, but said nothing. The old insult no longer holding any venom. The group began to collect their belongings as Hank appeared from the back room. They assumed the old man went to take a nap in his office while they waited, but he appeared wide awake, a glint in his eyes, as he asked the bizarre trio if their benevolent dungeon master had yet to arrive. The group confirmed in unison, seeming to put the subject of Zach and his tardiness behind them. The shop owner scratched his beard before nodding his head, as if coming to a resolution.
It's a shame you drove all this way for nothing. I'm sure you guys know I DM from time to time. I even have a decent room in the back. I'm sure you all have heard rumors of it.
Hank trailed off, pausing to reel each one of them in. The three friends looked at each other. Indeed, they had heard the rumors. Rumors of the most fantastical D&D room imaginable, hidden behind the old comic shop, flooded among their community for years. They all nodded, silently communicating their decision. They had always been curious about the back room. What time like now to finally see it for themselves? With a wide smile, Hank led them down the dim hallway to his private game room. Pushing the door open, Hank waved them inside. They stepped in and said nothing. C opened his mouth, but couldn't find a snarky comment to say, thus let it hang open as they gaped at what lay before them. Lavish banners hung from 3 walls of the room, each designed with ornate crests for various factions, the most prolific cities in the realm, and some even that were unrecognizable to the 3, as they represented secret societies they had yet to come across. Wooden winged beasts with plush satin cushions surrounded a round oak table. Mountain ranges and valley slopes ran rogue throughout a 3-dimensional map. Rivers bubbled and snaked at their feet, and through plains of vast hamlets and cities rose around them for their resources. Trees sprouted on nearly every inch of the scape, shielding small animal figurines from view. The scene already had miniature monsters and heroes scattered haphazardly on the map, each painted with so much detail, you would think they were living, breathing things. The room was topped with a low-hanging antique chandelier, but the most eye-catching were the 2 banners adorning the walls at the head of the space. Sitting side by side, with twin long blades crossed between them, were 2 banners, both dark in nature, but completely opposite of its neighbor. The one on the left depicted a full moon on a clear night. Its material black, however, still shining with the effect of stars splattered within its sky. The banner glowed with a luminescence of the chaotic goddess, Saloon. Soft and gentle, yet teeming with mischievous promise. The second banner was black of shadows. The light that touched its surface was consumed greedily by its threads. A screaming gray skull looked upon the newcomers with so much hunger. The group shivered under its gaze.
Please, take a seat. Leave your things by the door. I have things for everybody to play tonight's game. Give me a moment. I'll pour refreshments for everyone.
The gamers shuffled closer, too in shock to reply.
This is fucking incredible.
The old friends beamed at one another, rushing forward to examine the table more closely. Willa still said nothing, too in awe of the grandness of it all to form words. Her fingers danced lightly over the banners as she circled the room, the fabric bit soft under her nimble caress. Hank's voice startled her as she spun to meet the older man.
Beautiful, aren't they? I had them commissioned by an excellent seamstress who specializes in graphic design for tapestry. Each one represents a city I've seen in the game or a faction I've stumbled across. All a physical story of my life in the game.
Willa beamed at Hank as he drifted into his memory. The owner of the toy box really loved this game and its players. It warmed her heart, and she appreciated this opportunity even more. Shaking himself from his memory, Hank pulled a silver tray towards Willa. Atop it sat 4 silver goblets. They fizzled and popped, purple smoke pluming along the rims.
What's this?
Just my own concoction. I like to whip it up for players. I call it Zacharon's Tears.
Are we tempting fate by being here?
Hank smiled at the younger players. A glint forming in his eyes Willa had begun to recognize as the DM mischievous look. It was a look every DM got before throwing something devious at their players.
Perhaps. Or perhaps it'll tip you just in the right direction.
The group sat with their libations, the room buzzing with anticipation of what was to come. Hank's table housed hidden compartments in front of each player's seat. A small tray folded out toward them with a space for their drinks, a notebook and pen with strategy writing, and 6 divots where the standard dice sat. Hank traveled from player to player with a red velvet-lined case, holding rows upon rows of crystal die. They winked at each of them under the chandelier light. They chose their weapons and then raised their goblets.
Thank you for allowing me to host this one-time campaign for you. I hope to make it a memorable one. I've decided on a simple quest for a treasured item would be best for tonight's festivities. So let us toast to seekers and to the prize. May they fight gallantly. May their souls be true, lest they find their souls forfeit and consumed by the task at hand.
They cheered, saluting to the adventure ahead. They drank liberally from their goblets, the drink filling their bellies, making their limbs tired and weak. The goblets clattered to the floor, the world tilting, for the world before their eyes went dark. Bright light shoved its way under Willa's eyelids. Her head drummed painfully, a groan slipping from her chapped lips. Hesitantly, she opened her eyes to discover a cloudless blue sky staring back at her. Confused, Willa sat up, but instantly regretted the hasty action. Her stomach rolled beneath her skin, her mouth going dry. Oh no, she was going to be sick. After emptying the contents of her stomach, Willa began to reassess her surroundings.
What the hell happened?
A groan to Willa's right caught her attention as she turned to the sound. She screamed, scrambling back on all fours. A behemoth of a creature rolled to a standing position next to her. It was at least 8 feet tall, its muscles as big as redwoods. It spoke in a gnarled voice, as if the words were too tiny for its giant mouth.
What happened? Where are we?
The beast looked down, spotting Willa.
Holy shit, what are you?
The thing stumbled back, careening with the trees and crashing to the forest floor, its eyes bulging out of its too large head.
Me? What the f*** are you?
From the looks of it, an elf. And that catastrophe is a barbarian.
The newly minted elf and barbarian gape at the man leaning against one of the trees nearby. There isn't anything remarkable about the man, with his plain brown eyes and long, wavy brown hair, although He does look like he is ready for his role as one of Robin Hood's men. Delicate pouches hang from a woven belt around his hip, along with 2 twin daggers at his thighs. However, the lilt in his voice would suggest...
See?
In the flesh, my elfish tart.
The barbarian picks himself off the ground to stare at the elf and the human, scratching his head in confusion.
Why are you so small?
Seems like your brain shrunk when you entered that body. You're an 8-foot barbarian now, Jax. Do you understand me, oh large one?
The barbarian takes a swipe at his friend, but the human is too nimble for the larger creature's hand.
Do you know what happened, Z?
Not a clue. I only woke up a few minutes before you looking, well, like this. The only thing that I could conclude is...
Black smoke plumed into the center of the trees. Wispy tendrils coiled around their ankles and at the base of the trees, overshadowing the brightness of the day. The friends shrink together as a figure emerges from the raven vapor. Velvet midnight robes replaced the shadowed fog. The figure was hooded and stood tall, with an onyx staff clutched within fingers only comprised of ivory bone. As the hooded figure's head rose to meet them, the group gasped audibly in unison. A skeletal skull with twin blue flames for eyes stared back at them.
I see you lot have arrived well and intact. Welcome, players, to the realm.
The players gaped at the newcomer, who seemed oblivious to their shock. With a creaking of bones, the figure flares his wrists in a sweeping gesture, showcasing itself off like the prize of the afternoon.
It is I, Master of Ceremonies, your glorious game commander, your taker of souls, Torva Messor.
The being, named Torva Messor, bows to the group, undoubtedly waiting for gasps of awe and sounds of appreciation.
Who the fuck is that?
Hank, you dim-witted buffoon.
Realization flashes across each of their faces as they take in Torva with new understanding.
Hank?
I thought I made it clear already, but for the sake of the dull-minded, I will repeat myself. I am Torva Messor, your master of...
Yeah, you're a master of shit and other blah, 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 blah. What does that have to do with why we are here in the realm?
The simplest answer? You're here because I will it.
What is the unsimple answer?
A gesture that could only be named as a smile prowls across Torva's bony mouth, the action splitting the skeleton face wider as if to consume them all on the spot. The effect causing Willa to step back suddenly, realizing they are in much bigger trouble than they envisioned.
The unsimple answer is that by accepting my invitation to play my rendition of this little game, you have formally consented to my challenge.
And what exactly is that challenge?
Complete the simple task of acquiring my phylactery in the city at the border of these woods in 1 day's time, and then you and your friends are free to exit. Fail or die within your allotted time, and your souls are forfeit to me.
That's it?
That's it.
A shadowed hand bloomed with a wave as Torva's staff and map appeared in the space over the players.
I shall bestow upon you a map to guide you on the journey that should contain all you need to complete the quest.
But how exactly will we know this phylactery of Lich when we see it?
What's the fun in giving you that information? You will know the item when you see it. Best of luck, travelers. You had better be on your way. The clock is already ticking.
With that, the smoke retracted into the space of nothingness and winked out, as if Torva was never even there to begin with.
Well, this is horse shit.
For once, I agree with you. What the hell are we supposed to do?
Play the game. What else is there to do? Come on, you guys. This is the adventure of all adventures. How many people can say they actually played in the game and not just move the pawns around? This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance, you guys.
Yeah, once-in-a-lifetime chance to die.
You really think he meant, your soul is mine, shit?
Do we really want to find out?
I don't think we have much choice in that regard.
With no further discussion required, the team plucked the map from the air and began their quest to find the lynch. The map was easy enough to read. It displayed them as 3 red dots slowly progressing on the road. A cluster of towns was crudely drawn ahead of them, which the group figured had to be the location the lynch was hidden in. It did not take the group long to stumble across trouble. As they crossed through the dense trees, a band of goblins emerged from the shadows, blocking their path.
Oh look, the welcome committee is here.
The goblins snarled, black tar oozing from their crushed lips. One stepped forward and began speaking in a language none of the players recognized. But what was clear was the threat as the goblin pulled a sword from its sheath, brandishing it at the players.
Aw, little buddy wants to play.
Shut the f*** up, Z. Hey, what are you doing?
Z ignored his friend and moved closer to the awaiting goblins, deciding that he would confront the obviously false threat.
Thus leading the group effectively out of harm's way while proving his point. Unbeknownst to Z, however, the dice rolled, and it was not in his favor. Without preamble, the goblin leader swung his sword in an upward arc toward Z. Surprised by the sudden movement, the player had little time to dodge the blow as his fellow competitors screamed in horror. The sword connected with Z's abdomen, slicing through the thin, gauzy material of his shirt into the soft flesh from hip to shoulder. Z howled in pain, dropping like a stone to the forest floor. This was no lie. This game was real. They were real within the game, and from the looks of Z's wound, they could be hurt, and worse. Thinking quickly, Jax heft a tree from the ground and swept it through the gang of goblins, as if sweeping away dust from a dirty floor. He roared in anger, and his assailants sailed through the tops of the trees. Ducking under the barbarian, Willow ran to Z to check his wounds.
Shit! You fucking cocky idiot!
Willow's hand shook as she surveyed the damage. The gash was ugly, the skin angrily puckering under the fabric of the shirt. But it wasn't too deep. Willow rummaged through the pockets of Z's pants.
What are you doing? Want to get one last rub down before I'm gone?
As much as I want to throttle you for that joke, no, idiot! You play a human sorcerer every time we play.
Keeping track of my players now.
Stop talking! You're only going to make yourself weaker by talking!
Weak? I'll show you. Were you weak?
Even injured, you have to fight, Z. Just shut up, okay? What Willa is trying to get at is you probably have some magic healing salve or potion on you. If these are the characters we normally play, then we're probably equipped with everything we normally are. So stop struggling and let Willa find what she needs to help you. Everything doesn't have to be a fucking battle.
The friends stared at the Goliath before them, eyes wide, with his uncharacteristic outburst.
I found some salve in one of your pouches. Hold still while I apply it, okay?
We should probably find some cover too. If my theories are correct and this is just like any other game of D&D, then a full night's rest should restore you to full health at first light. But we have to get moving and find some shelter if we want to survive the night.
We need to do more than survive the night, Jax. We need to win this thing because I am not turning my soul over to that piece of shit Grim Reaper wannabe.
Twice now, my wretched friend. We are in agreement.
And so, the trio set off to find a place to hunker down for the night and prepare for the trails of the morrow. Unbeknownst to the players, the dice rolled as they settled in, and it was not
in their favor. The sun blazed high in the cloudless sky as the trio trudged toward the town on the map.
Once the sun rose, they learned with much relief their strengths and health were returned to 100% once more. The walk was silent, each member of the party retreating to the depths of their minds for one reason or another. As they crested a hill, the small mortar city came into view. The trio high-fived, racing down the grassy knoll. The streets were already bustling, vendors peddling their wares, taverns already filled to the brim with patrons. It was unlike anything they had witnessed before. As they rounded the corner, a wrinkled parchment caught Z's keen eye.
Huh. Well, the least they could do is get my charming good looks right.
What?
Z tore the announcement from the building, displaying it for the others.
Got you right, though, Jax. Vacant eyes and all.
Let me see that.
Willa snatches the poster from Z and gasps. Each one of them gazes back at her, a crude but uncanny likeness of the three. A large reward for them printed at the bottom. A reward to be given, dead or alive.
We need to get out of the main street now.
No shit, Sherlock, but how do you suggest hiding Paul Bunyan over here?
Z hooks a thumb in the direction of Jax, the Goliath's face growing paler as he takes in the wanted poster. Willa hastily drags her friends into a dark alley lined with drying linen. She snatches the fabric from their resting place, throwing some at the men.
You're a human sorcerer, Z. Sorcerer us some f***ing disguises or something.
Guys?
Oh, now you want my help.
Right now?
Guys.
Yes. For once, can you just not be a selfish asshole?
Oh, I'm the asshole.
Well, if it walks like a duck and bullshits like a duck.
Oh, fuck you.
Guys!
The bickering friends whirl on the giant, each seething for different reasons. At the end of the stout alley, soldiers file in, weapons drawn.
Well, shit, run!
The trio dashed the way they came and into the busy market. Patrons screamed and shouted obscenities as they vaulted over stands, well, except for Jax, who merely barreled through them, the stock inside flying skyward.
Now would be a perfect time to use that sorcerer power, Z.
All right, don't get your giant panties in a wad.
Z whispers under his breath as the others hold theirs. A gust of cyclone wind snares the players, carrying them to the foot of the castle entrance.
How do you like that for door-to-door service?
About damn time. Now we just need to figure out how to get in.
I've got that covered.
Casting the makeshift cape aside and rolling up his sleeve, Jax stomped to the closed gate. Meaty fingers slithered under the wood as he heaved, neck muscles bulging from exertion. With a roar, the gate begins to lift. With a final cry and nearly all his strength expended, the gate slammed home, revealing an empty hallway. Z patted the Goliath on his bicep.
Way to go, big guy.
Can't let these guns go to waste.
Come on, let's find the phylactery, summon Torva, and go the fuck home.
I like the way you think.
It's not all you like, is it?
You say something?
No. Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
With a beat of awkward silence, the group moved into the castle, poking their heads in every nook and cranny. They tore apart the first level, inch by inch.
Let's split up. Cover more ground.
Good idea, Willa. I'll go high. You guys go low. Peace.
Z, wait.
Z jingled down the hall, waving mischievously over his shoulder as he disappeared around a corner. The unlikely couple moved lower, which was not the right move to make.
Hey, Willa.
Yeah?
I wanted to ask you something.
Jax didn't get to ask his something. As the duo moved into the new hallway, they were greeted by a staggering number of guards.
Run!
Once again, the players found themselves running for their lives, all pretenses of their characters cast aside as their real and frightened selves pushed forward. Shaking herself from her fear, Willa reaches into her satchel, digging out the map. She unfolds it before sliding around a corner, Jax narrowly missing the corridor.
Yes!
Willa stops dead, Jax skidding to a halt a foot behind her.
What are you doing?
Not running anymore. We aren't just some human players, remember? It's time we stopped acting like some, and we just so happen to be in the perfect room to make a stand.
Jax takes in the room for the first time and grins.
Willa's quick examination of the map revealed an armory lined with rows of long bows and quivers, swords, and other medieval devices. Willa snatched a bow from the nearest wall just as the first soldier crested the door. Praying her character instincts would take control, Willa knocked the arrow and let it fly. This time, the action was in their favor. The arrow hit home, the guard slamming into another, causing a pileup at the door.
Duck!
Willa hit the floor just as a massive warhammer collided with the soldier teeming to get inside. Faces and torsos disconnected from their owners, leaving heaps of bloody legs and spilled organs at the armory entrance.
Holy fuck.
Willa took a step back, the carnage churning her insides as she watched the insides of others roil before her. She turned to her friend, but he was no longer present. Before her raged a barbarian, the like she had never fathomed. Face no longer pale, but as red as the blood painting the walls, Jax roared into the fray, a battle axe in his large mitts. Soldiers' limbs bisected as he swung, blood spraying onto Willa's face. She nearly dropped her bow and quiver, but a soldier lunged for her, her instincts taking over, an arrow flying from her fingertips before she can stop herself, the silver embedding itself deep into the soldier's eye socket. An endless stream of foes moved in on them. However, the players were lost to their characters, both fighting with abandon. As the head of the last soldier rolled to Jax's feet, Willa finally came back to herself and vomited into a puddle of blood. Jax stood at the door, chest heaving, entrails and other nameless gore laying like offerings at his feet. Willa moved to her friend's side, wiping her mouth, her fingers smelling of copper, wetness grazing across her pouting lips. She pulled the mat from her pocket, its folds surprisingly clean.
The artifacts room is that way.
Okay, let's go.
Jax's massive hand engulfed Willa, causing her to let out a small squeak. The barbarian's red hue remained, as well as his tempered breathing, as he tucked the rogue elf protectively to his chest and stepped over the carnage. Willa did her best to ignore the newly decorated space, but the pained groans of the soldiers still alive would haunt her for many years to come. Afraid to send her friend into another blind rage, Willa took in the map and pointed in the direction of the artifacts room. With each thunderous step, Jack's body seemed to relax more. But that wasn't enough to reassure Willa that Jax was somehow lost inside his character's mind. Sandy-colored stone passed in a blur as they moved deeper into the unknown domain, finally arriving at a tall wooden door. It was still ajar, soft specks of light dancing through the open air.
We're here. Set me down, please.
The barbarian grunted, but set Willa down gently before checking the hallway for more threats. Willa inched towards the door, but her hand stopped just above the large brass handle as noises from the room beyond filtered to her ears. Pressing herself against the frame, Willa paused, ears twitching to catch another note of disturbance from inside. Feet shuffled, a string of curses, and obviously pilfering floated to her pointed ears.
There's someone in there.
What are you thinking? Storm in and catch him by surprise? Could be another set of players.
Willa jumped, not expecting Jax's words to tickle the nape of her neck. The large being crouched beside her, his face finally pale once more, but his breathing was still labored.
What if it's Z?
He wouldn't have left us back there like that to claim the prize for himself. I know you two aren't close anymore, and that's none of my business, but I don't think Z would just strand us here.
Willa nibbled on her lip, contemplating Jack's logic.
I guess we just have to roll with it and hope it's in our favor.
She grinned up at her friend as he nodded in agreement.
On 3. 1,
2, 3.
The pair exploded into the room, a battle cry tumbling from their lips. The room was lined with glass cases featuring unnameable precious items. Lavish tapestries covered every available wall space, while pedestals of gold, jewels, and more zigzagged throughout the entirety of the room. And in the center stood Z.
Ah, the lovers finally came to see me claim my prize.
Your prize.
Come on, Z, don't do this, man. This isn't you.
wouldn't claim it for himself and strand us, huh?
The Goliath shook his head, not allowing Willa to be right.
It's not? I think we both know that's a lie, my simple friend.
What the fuck, Z? Don't pull this shit now.
Too late. I summon thee, Torva Messer, keeper of the dead and lost souls. I have found what you have been searching for.
Wind blasted through the room, knocking over jewels and paintings. Willa and Jax were thrusted off their feet, floating absently before slamming into the door through which they came. Inky tendrils of vicious smoke oozed along the floor, converging onto the traitorous sorcerer. Z howled in excitement, an oxidized miniature scale held high in victory over his head. As the smoke plumed, Jax reached out, yanking Willa to his callous body, shielding her from the worst of the windstorm. As the smoke ebbed, a lone figure stood in the haze. Torva Messer.
We meet again, my little champions. And not a minute to spare, I might add.
Orange flames danced within the velvet hood of the figure standing before the player. He took in his band of misfits, assessing the divide.
Oh my, is there a rift among you? How very, intriguing.
Jax and Willa rise from their positions by the door. The two move deeper into the room, drawn like puppets to their master in the center of the room.
Shall you reveal to me the item with which you broker your freedom?
An opaque skeleton hand gestured toward Z and the object in his hand. Z sauntered forward, a coy smile plastered on his face.
I present to you the phylactery of Lich, your Kellamore scales and crystals of balance.
In the human sorcerer's hand was a blemished silver scale, its tower comprising of a fisted skeleton hand, holding up the opposing sides of the scale. Simple silver dishes hung from woven chains, tinkling with each step Z placed. From his pocket, he produced 2 crystals, one black and one white, the balancers of light.
Well done, my dear boy.
I want you to know that I am the sole proprietor of this prize. Neither of them helped me find what you were looking for.
You fucking murder hobo, Z!
I fucking always knew you were a snake, but this is low even for you.
Silence! Silence!
The room shook, the players each taking an unconscious step back from the god.
As I was saying, well done, Z, in finding my scales.
Torva moved to Z, his robes sweeping with his gait, but not uttering a sound. Accepting the scale and stones, he held them high in his bony fingers, examining his property.
It truly has been ages since I've looked upon these. No matter.
Torva tossed the scale and stones over his shoulder, the players gasping in unison.
I have no use for these when I can already see the measure of your soul.
As the words bled into their ears, shock raced along Z's face.
But you said...
I said find the phylactery, not some trinket I fancied ages ago. And since you so kindly told me you were the soul acquirer, your soul is now mine.
White lightning erupted from the cuffs of the robe, slamming into Z with the whole force of nature and hell combined. Z screeched in pain, his body erupting in flames. He burned as if his skin was constructed of kindling, leaving a charred husk in a matter of blinks. Jax and Willa stood, mouths open in shocked horror at the quick demise of their longtime friend and cohort. The god of death turned towards them, glee emanating from his robed shoulders.
Such a shame. I really did have high hopes for you.
Lightning sparked at Torva's skeleton fingertips, and that was all the warning the duo received. Sparks crackled as they charged forward, death hissing on their tongues. Frozen, Willow was prepared to see the next life when the shadow of Jack's hulking form slid into the path of the lightning. The impact thrust them into the air, Jax's body convulsing as he sailed over Willa and into the glass case of priceless artifacts. With a cry, Willa's body skipped like a stone over a heavy slab table, trinkets and knickknacks cascading to the floor. In too much pain to move, Willa lay on the cold floor, her eyes squeezing shut. Not from the pain of her injuries, but from the pain of watching her friend's death.
I thought you said you were real players of the game. Where is your fight?
Torva's laugh shivered down Willa's spine. She refused to lay there like a coward. Groaning, she rolled onto her side, rustling up the courage to stand, when something caught her eye. A small, delicate crystal sphere lay inches from her face. As she took a closer look, she noticed the crystal was forged of something not natural or made. It twinkled with iridescent ebony light, as though a tiny solar system was condensed inside its crystalline walls. Snaking closer, Willa was just able to make out the intricate design of each facet. Gasping, Willa snatched the crystal and pushed herself to her feet.
Ah, there you are. Are you ready to face your penalty for failing to complete your task?
Your task, you monolithic necromancer!
With a cry, Jack smashed a leg from a stone table into the side of Torva's head. Both beings hit the ground, the earth quaking on impact.
Jax!
With surprising agility, Willa sprung to her friend's side. His breathing was even more labored now, a clear sign of exhaustion depleting the barbarian's health.
Stay with me, Jax. Stay with me. You're going to make it through this. Please don't leave me.
As long as you make it out, then my job is complete.
Don't you dare talk like that. Jax! Jax! Jax!
Jax stared blankly at the ceiling, his colossal chest finally coming to rest.
Sneaky fool, still had one more trick in him.
Willow whipped towards Torva, the demon god, rubbing the space where his temple should be. She seethed, pulling herself away from the corpse of her dead friend.
Hey, asshole, here's your fucking phylactery.
Willa tossed the crystal to the god, its uneven sides making it zigzag toward his feet. Stopping, the markings glowed, illuminating two simple shapes. Two perfect X's. The Roman numeral for 20. Torva's eyes blazed with hot sapphire light before returning to their normal orange hue.
I guess you're never too old for a surprise ending.
With those final words, the floor tilts, plummeting Willa into the void. A harsh rapping jolts Willa awake. She looks around to find herself back in her car, still parked in front of the toy box. The rapping continues, stirring her from her haze. Was it all real? She looks up into the sheepish face of Zach, their regular dungeon master. She steps out, her mind not believing what she was seeing.
Hey, sorry to keep you waiting. I totally crashed after work today, but I'll tell you what, to make it up to you guys, I have this really awesome campaign ready to go. Where are Jax and Z?
Zach's words fade into nothing as movement in the store draws her attention. Hank stands in the glow of the arced closed door, a sly grin parting his wrinkled face. Slowly, he flips the sign to close before winking one flaming orange eye and disappearing into nothingness.
Hey, little dude, send your mom and daddy out of the room. I gotta get you up on this. You know who I am. Snake, dealing in weed, coke, crack. One hit and you'll do anything the cop wants. Steal from your mama, lie, cheat on your homeboys. But hey, that's the price you pay when you deal with dudes like me. Now, some folks will tell you that I'm dealing in poison. But hey, do I look like the kind of guy that would do that to a kid like you? Yes.
Byzantium Slab, Life Without a Soul, Part 3. Cut to exterior, wide shot of the castle. It is a skull made of stone bricks, ancient petrified wood, and iron, floating miles above the surface in a low planetary orbit. A length of structures resembling vertebrae dangles beneath it like a tail. Spires jut up from the top of the skull like medieval cell towers. The concept and shape of the castle is similar to Space Dock in Star Trek III, except goth as and skeletal. Ghosts and black bat-like one-man starfighters swarm around it like bees protecting an upset beehive. Cut to exterior, castle, a little tighter. Chan, drill clinging to her leg, hanging from the bottom vertebra of the castle. Several sentries have fallen to their doom through the hatch as well. Chan's cape looks even more like a blood slick, blood drops streaming from it in the breeze.
Life without a soul means knowing when to jump.
Cut to exterior, sky. Chan jumps from her perch beneath the castle, drill barely hanging on to her. Her cape streams behind her like bloody, liquid hawk wings.
And when to pray.
Die Hard reference. Nice. The masked helm has fallen away. Chan's face is expressionless, empty, resigned to an inevitable death. A starfighter passes beneath them. They latch onto it and hang on for dear life. Chan uses the hammer to break into the cockpit and defeat the pilot, who is thrown to the ground miles below. Drill and Tio pilot the starfighter to the surface, with Chan holding on to the wing.
Last night I journeyed backwards in time to the medieval world of Dark Tower. In this amazing game, I had to find 3 keys, lay siege to the tower, and defeat the enemy within. Then, ahead of my opponent, I made my move. The battle was joined, and I was victorious. Dark Tower.
What a day. Work, shopping, the kids. Sometimes the pressure makes me want to scream.
This man has a lean, flat stomach. He's using the Stomach Eliminator, the famous fitness tool from Europe. Yes, from Europe, where 2 million have been sold, comes the Stomach Eliminator.
Hey everyone, my name is Nikki Young, and I'm the host of the true crime podcast for naps, Serial Napper. I'm here with another true crime story to lull you to sleep, or perhaps to give you nightmares. What if one missing boy didn't just disappear, but accidentally helped spark a national panic? This is one of those stories that sounds almost too strange to be true. It starts in the summer of 1979 with a 16-year-old prodigy named James Dallas Egbert III. Now, most 16-year-olds are worried about passing a driving test or sneaking out past curfew, but James, he was enrolled at Michigan State University, studying computer science. A kid genius. A computer nerd before being a computer nerd was even remotely cool. And by all accounts, a kid who never quite fit anywhere. Then one August night, he vanished. No one knew where he went. And almost immediately, a bizarre theory began taking shape. Beneath the university campus, there were miles of steam tunnels. Dark, hot, maze-like, dangerous, practically begging to become urban legend. And soon people began whispering something even stranger. What if James had disappeared down there while playing Dungeons and Dragons? What if a fantasy game had swallowed him whole? What if he'd blurred the line between wizard and real life and gotten lost in his own dungeon? And somehow, people believed it, really believed it. Headlines painted Dungeons & Dragons as bizarre, secretive, and cult-like. Talk shows fed the panic. Parents were horrified. A game of dice and imagination suddenly looked to some people like a gateway to madness. And in a move only humans could pull off, instead of asking why a lonely teenager was struggling, they put a board game on trial. Because somehow a game became the suspect. And at the center of it all was this lonely, brilliant 16-year-old boy, James Dallas Egbert III. But here's the thing. The truth was much sadder than the myth. This was never really a story about monsters in tunnels, or secret cults, or even fantasy gone wrong. It was about depression, pressure, and isolation, about a boy carrying far more than anyone seemed willing to see. And somehow that part, it got buried beneath all the panic. This case would help feed what later became known as satanic panic. It would convince people that role-playing games were corrupting America's youth. You know, because teenagers pretending to be wizards was obviously civilization's greatest threat. Not emotional neglect or untreated depression. It was the wizards, naturally. But when you strip down the hysteria, what's left is one of the saddest stories I've ever covered. James didn't vanish into fantasy. He was just trying to escape reality. So, dim the lights, put your phone down, and listen to the story of James Dallas Egbert III and the disappearance that helped ignite a panic and the tragedy buried beneath it. So, let's jump right in. James Dallas Egbert III was just a kid, a very complicated kid, and honestly, a pretty lonely one. James was what people love to call gifted, which always sounds so shiny and impressive, like some golden ticket, but sometimes gifted, it just means a child gets pushed too fast and left to figure out adulthood before they've even survived adolescence. And that was James. He had skipped 2 grades. By 16, while most teenagers were stressing over acne, algebra, and whether someone liked them back, James was enrolled at Michigan State University studying computer science. At 16, that still kind of scrambles my brain because 16 is so young. You're old enough to seem grown, but not old enough to be. And suddenly, he's dropped into a university full of adults, older students, older expectations, and older problems. And by many accounts, he stuck out badly. People described him as looking even younger than he was. 12, some said. Picture being a literal child prodigy walking into dorm life amongst students who can legally drink, date, and disappear for weekends. And then there's this kid genius just trying to belong, trying not to look out of place, trying not to be irritating, and certainly trying not to be rejected, and often failing. One account described each group he tried joining seeming to invent a new way to exclude him, which is brutal and painfully teenage. No matter how brilliant you are, being unwanted still hurts the same, maybe more. He was brilliant, yes, but brilliance, it doesn't protect you from loneliness. And James, he seems to have been carrying a lot of it. There was also crushing academic pressure, when being exceptional stops feeling like a gift and starts feeling like a trap. There were also reports of drug use, depression, a growing sense that he was unraveling. And then there was a secret that he was trying desperately to survive. James was gay in 1979, and I don't have to tell you what that could mean then. Fear, shame, secrecy, and isolation, especially for a teenager who was already struggling to belong. He was navigating college, parental pressure, social rejection, while hiding a core part of who he was, and that is a lot for anyone, let alone a 16-year-old. He was, in a lot of ways, living in several closets at once, and maybe that's part of why he drifted towards Dungeons & Dragons. Because for outsiders, maybe D&D looked a little weird. There was dice, character sheets, imaginary quests, very suspicious apparently to adults who feared fun. But for the kids playing it, well, it could be a community, an escape, a place where people who maybe felt awkward sometimes could become heroes, a place where the weird kid maybe wasn't so weird. Later, people would frame Dungeons & Dragons as some dark influence pulling James into fantasy. But maybe it was one of the few places that he felt less alone. And for a little while, he seemed to find people there, people who got him. On August 15th, 1979, James vanished, just gone. And almost immediately, what should have been a deeply personal crisis began turning into something much stranger. James hadn't simply walked away. He left behind what appeared to be a suicide note. And that changed the stakes instantly. His parents, wealthy and deeply alarmed, moved quickly and hired private investigator William Deere. And Deere was not exactly a sit-behind-a-desk kind of investigator. He started digging, and what he found under the campus sounded like something out of a thriller. Beneath Michigan State University, there were miles of steam tunnels, 8 miles reportedly. A hidden world running under campus, concrete corridors, scalding pipes, boiler heat, claustrophobic passageways. Deere eventually searched those tunnels, and he reportedly found signs that James had been there, evidence suggesting that he may have entered them intentionally. And that's where the case took a hard left into legend. Because around the same time, investigators learned that James played Dungeons & Dragons. And suddenly, a theory formed, a really bizarre one. What if James had gone underground, acting out some live version of the game? What if this was some dungeon quest gone wrong? What if he was trapped, lost, injured? What if he'd slipped so far into fantasy that he believed he actually was his character? And look, today, that sounds absurd, but at the time, people took it very seriously. There were whispers that the game blurred fantasy and reality, that players could lose themselves, that maybe James wasn't just missing, maybe he was wandering underground thinking that he was some wizard on a quest. And once that idea reached the press, well, that was it. The story had escaped. And once a story like that gets loose, good luck catching it. Reporters loved it. Of course they did. A missing prodigy, secret tunnels, fantasy role-playing, possible madness, that practically writes itself, and the coverage got weird fast. The language they used is fascinating now. Bizarre, cult-like, fantasy lovers, as if kids rolling dice in a dorm room were one goat sacrifice away from summoning the apocalypse. The more sensational the story became, the farther it drifted from James himself. From a struggling kid in pain towards something stranger, darker, almost supernatural. And that's what fascinates me about this case, because the disappearance was real, the suffering was real, but almost immediately, the myth started replacing the boy. But James wasn't lost in some fantasy world. He wasn't wandering steam tunnels, believing that he was a wizard. He wasn't trapped in a live-action dungeon, and he wasn't the cautionary tale that people were already trying to turn him into. The truth was far more painful and much more human. James had gone into those tunnels to die. That was the reality. Not a game, not madness sparked by role-playing, a suicide attempt. He entered those tunnels with quaaludes, overdosed, and survived. Imagine how much pain a 16-year-old has to be in for a university steam tunnel to feel like an answer. And when the overdose didn't kill him, he fled. People talk about the disappearance like he vanished into myth, but he actually ran. He ran from pain and scrutiny, maybe even from shame, maybe from all of it. First, he hid with an older male admirer, a relationship that the press mostly danced around because, well, 1979. And then he moved on. Chicago, eventually Louisiana, a teenager in crisis drifting from place to place while the whole country was building a legend around his absence. And that's almost unbearably sad to me. While people were debating whether dice had driven him insane, an actual child was trying to survive himself. And during that time, he survived not one, but multiple suicide attempts. That should have been the story. That should have stopped everyone cold, but it didn't. When James resurfaced in September and made it clear that this had nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons, nothing, not one thing, the myth was already stronger than the truth. Games, music, books, the occult, comic books, heavy metal, video games, take your pick. Anything but pain, anything but complicated human suffering, anything but parents maybe pushing too hard, anything but depression, anything but the quiet agony of a queer teenager who had nowhere safe to put that truth. That story, that was harder to print, harder to sensationalize, and certainly harder to blame on something external. So many outlets barely even corrected course. Some kept pushing the fantasy angle anyway, because missing prodigy nearly dies under crushing pressure. It doesn't quite sell like role-playing game may have driven boy into underground madness. And poor James, he watched himself become a myth while still alive. And maybe this is the cruelest part of this whole case. Dungeons and Dragons may have been one of the few things offering James connection, and it got blamed for his suffering instead. That's almost tragic enough to stand on its own. Once again, people saw dragons when the real monster was despair. After James was found, there was this brief sense, at least from the outside, that maybe the worst had passed, that maybe this was the part where things turned around, where the boy survives, gets help, starts over, the ending people want. But life is rarely that tidy. James tried. James fought more than once. But unfortunately, James kept struggling. Depression doesn't resolve because one person sees you. Pain doesn't disappear because you've been found. And gifted kids, especially the ones pushed too hard, they can become very skilled at appearing functional while they're unraveling. By then, there were fractures everywhere. Drugs, family tension, isolation, that same ache that had driven him into those tunnels in the first place. It hadn't disappeared. It was still there, and maybe even worse. And then, almost exactly 1 year later, the ending everyone hoped had been avoided came anyway. In August of 1980, James shot himself. He died days later, 1 year and a day after entering those steam tunnels. He was 17, just 17, and 17 is still so profoundly young, still mostly child, still all possibility. And yet somehow this brilliant kid who had been pushed ahead of everyone else, he never got enough time to catch up to himself. Somehow, in the aftermath, a lot of the culture learned more lessons about Dungeons and Dragons than about what failed this kid, more warnings about fantasy than about depression, more fear about games than conversations about gifted children in crisis, more panic about imaginary monsters than attention paid to real suffering. And that says a lot. James wasn't destroyed by dragons. He was worn down by pressures people either didn't see or didn't know how to hold. And I can't help wondering what might have happened if he'd lived a little longer, if he'd found his people, if the world had become kinder just a little bit sooner, if someone had convinced him that 17 was not the whole story. But we don't get to know, and that might be the hardest part. When people remember this case, they often remember the weird headline version. The steam tunnels, the missing prodigy, the game, the panic, the myth. But that was never really what this story was about. This wasn't a story about Dungeons and Dragons. It was a story about how quickly fear can harden into mythology, how fast rumor can become truth if it tells people what they already want to believe, and how easily a misunderstood hobby can be blamed for wounds that existed long before anyone picked up a 20-sided die. Dungeons and Dragons did not create James' pain. It became a convenient place to dump it, and those are two very different things. James Dallas Egbert III didn't disappear because fantasy consumed him. He disappeared because reality was hurting him. That's the truth sitting underneath all of this. Reality was hurting him. And maybe that truth was too uncomfortable. If the problem is a game, you can ban a game. If the problem is a record album, you can burn records. If the problem is comic books, well, you can censor comics. It's simple, clean, and feels controllable. But if the problem is a hurting kid no one knows how to reach, well, that asks something of us. That asks for reflection, responsibility, compassion, and people have always been a little less eager for that. So they made monsters out of dice, very tragic, very stupid, and somehow very familiar. Every generation does this. It's almost a ritual. In one era, it's comic books corrupting youth, then heavy metal, then horror movies, then video games, then the internet, and now social media. Always some new dragon. Always some cultural demon that we can point to. James' story sits right at the front edge of that pattern, almost like a blueprint. And what gets lost in those panics over and over is the human being at the center. The kid, the pain, the thing actually hurting. We still look for monsters out there in order to avoid confronting suffering that's right in front of us. And maybe that's why this case has stuck around for so long. Beneath all the strange folklore, it's really a story about a kid just asking to be seen and being turned into a legend instead. That's it for me tonight.
Pork and beef sausage in a sesame seed roll. Topped with mustard, tomato, or fruity sauce. The super hot dog. On sale at the kiosk now.
Cut 2. Full page spread of Chan and Drill on the surface. It's nearly dark. The sun glows through the peaks of distant mountains and the jagged skyline of a city. The wrecked starfighter smolders in the midground. In the foreground, Chan performs a sky-clad ritual by firelight on a barren moor. Her body is bruised, and it bears the scars of the soul extraction apparatus she has escaped. She is either in child's pose or full lotus, praying to the Tio projected up from the open grimoire. What's left of the hero's armor hangs from the handle of the hammer, and the whole thing looks a bit like a scarecrow. Drill is uninterested in prayer, but clings to Chan like a frightened child. For the newborn soul is nothing without the flesh. This concludes Part 1. Part 2 will air at a later date on the podcast you are listening to right now. Check local listings for exact time and date. You have been listening to Rogue Transmissions 4, DUNGEONPUNK. Rogue Transmissions was created by J.T. Hosack and Edward October. Byzantium Slab, Life Without a Soul, and The Shell Remembers were presented by Octoberpod AM, based upon an original idea by Nick Calavera with Edward October, and upon an unproduced comic strip written and adapted for Octoberpod by John Iger. In the cast you heard Ari Shey as Chan, Arthur Williams as Tio, and M.J. McAddams as Whisper. Additional audio engineering by Kevin from Straight Line Creative. Narrated, produced, edited, and directed by Edward October. Listen to Octoberpod AM wherever you find podcasts, or Octoberpod Home Video on YouTube. Find Octoberpod on the World Wide Web, along with all of our links, at octoberpodvhs.com. The Acid King of the 80s was presented by Jen and Cam for our True Crime podcast. Written and researched by JT Hosak. Original music composed and performed by Nico Vitezi of The Inky Paw Print.
We can be reached on Instagram and Facebook at Our True Crime Podcast or on Twitter with the handle at Our True Crime Pod. You can also email us at ourtruecrimepodcast@gmail.com.
This has been a Morbid Forest production. On this week's episode, you've heard Roll of the Dice, written by Naomi Richards, with narration by our wonderful friends from the Octoberpod podcast, Rory, Nick, and Jay, and with supporting narration by Josh Holbrook, Naomi Richards, and Sean Moreau. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and on Twitter for your latest info on the show. As always, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week, travelers, on The Morbid Forest.
Monsters Made of Dice was researched and presented by Nikki Young of the Serial Napper podcast.
For more true crime stories, you can follow Serial Napper on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Sweet dreams.
If you've enjoyed Rogue Transmissions, we'd be very gratified if you left a 5-star or equivalent rating wherever you're listening. And tell your friends about the wondrous things you heard. Be sure to follow all of the podcasts who lent their talents to making Rogue Transmissions possible. The man who spoke to you was Mr. Edward October.
Invincible in the air.
If you get painful headaches, you should know that recently, people like you nationwide took part in the largest headache test ever.